Cybers are actually kinda crazy, and with the right support could definitely be tier 1. With this in mind, Cybers seem like they won't be getting any Pendulum monsters. As we've seen with Rising Rampage not containing Cyberse Pendulums, a new arc beginning for Vrains, and Firewall Dark Fluid Dragon doesn't have any Pendulum related effect. What if, however, we do get Cyberse Pendulum monsters, and those would go on to push Cyberse to tier 1. And in today's video, we'll be looking at what the problems with the Yusaku Fujiki style Cyberse is, what they need, and then we'll swing our way over to Pendulum monsters and see how these skills could fix the Cyberse archetype and potentially make it tier 1. Disclaimer, I won't be discussing Cyberse archetypes such as Salamangreat or Marincess, as those archetypes already have a more streamlined way of play. But this discussion will be focusing more on the Yusaku Fujiki style Cyberse, which is the Code Talker and Ritual Fusion Synchro Exceed style of Cyberse. And lastly, before we get into all of this, if you enjoy my content and want to support me further than just watching my YouTube videos, make sure you guys check out my Patreon for more exclusive content that I don't typically make into videos, like why you should buy Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax and why Extra Foolish Barrel will be crazy. The link to my Patreon is in a card in the top right corner, and as well in the description below. With that, let's now discuss the potential of Cyberse Pendulums. So what do we know about the Yusaku Fujiki style of Cyberse? Well, the win condition right now is actually extra linking your opponent, so I'll show you the extra link on screen right now. But basically, it's a 2-card extra link that's not really Goki level at all, but it's not bad either, making it actually pretty decent, and there's definitely room for experimentation. I myself haven't experimented with the deck too much after this combo, and have only been focusing on this combo, but I'm sure there are different ways of playing the deck, depending on the experimentation that goes along with it. So thinking about it logically, we have Ritual Fusion Synchro and Exceed style Cyberse, where the idea is you want to get Firewall Dark Fluid Dragon on the field with as many counters on it as possible. And well, we don't really have that consistent method of doing so. Sure, Firewall Dark Fluid Dragon can be very powerful, can be an OTK machine, and can provide negation, but if we don't have the resources in Grave to get the counters on Dark Fluid, then it's kind of meh. So I think what the Cyberse Pendulum monster's purposes will be is to fuel the Firewall Dark Fluid Dragon and help support it even further. Because remember, this is a non-link mechanic, meaning it should probably support Dark Fluid in some way, and I think the best way will be when I get to the Cyberse Pendulum monsters I'm proposing here, and you guys will be able to see how the Cyberse Pendulums actually function with Firewall Dark Fluid Dragon. But basically, Dark Fluid is the cornerstone of the Ritual Fusion Synchro C style Cyberse. It's an easy OTK machine, it can set up 2 negates typically, and in unison with other Cyberse monsters, Dark Fluid can't be destroyed by card effects or be targeted, which is actually very powerful. And we'll talk about the Cyberse Pendulum monsters, but I think they should most likely be revolved around supporting Firewall Dark Fluid Dragon. Pendulums are not a links mechanic, meaning they would most likely fall under the category of the Synchro, Exceeds, etc. So I think they would definitely support Dark Fluid in some way, and again, I'll get to how they do in a second. I think the biggest thing to note about Firewall Dark Fluid Dragon is that it isn't necessarily as good as Trigate, because while Dark Fluid can get 1 negate, it doesn't clear the monster, doesn't banish it, doesn't destroy it, it just negates it, while Trigate negates any card, and it can banish it. Even though Dark Fluid can negate multiple cards, Trigate is just a more powerful negate overall, and so I'd rather have a Trigate on field than the Dark Fluid at first. And I think the other big important part about this deck we need to note is Signit Codec is the best card in the archetype hands down. So it adds a Cyberse of the same attribute as a Code Talker you just link summoned from your deck to your hand. So what does this mean? Well, it can at most search 6 Cyberse monsters with different attributes. 6 Cyberse monsters, that's pretty crazy, and because there are linked to Cyberse monsters, that just makes Signit Codec even better. So the combo consists of searching at least 4 in the full extra link, and you're not even using one of the searches, you're just getting a card for absolutely free. And the big thing to note about Signit Codec is it's easily searchable by Microcoder. Microcoder is a level 1 Cyberse effect monster that basically can search any Signit spell and trap. And Microcoder is very easily accessible. We have cards like Signit Mining, Lady Debug, Signit Backdoor, and other cards as well that can actually access the Microcoder in order to access your Signit Codec, making Signit Codec just better and better. And worst case scenario, if you already have drawn Signit Codec and you have the Microcoder may seem irrelevant, but then you can search Signit Conflict, making Microcoder more versatile and getting us another disruption if we've already drawn Signit Codec with the already established combo. So what are the strengths of the deck? I've already stated some of the basics, but let's get into the specific strengths. Well, the deck can consistently extra link. Clearly, extra linking is a very powerful thing to do. Not to mention you're having targeting protection on all of your monsters. Not all of the monsters have card effect protection, however, and they can be destroyed by battle. Clearly, you're having a Link Rebo at the end of your combo, but that doesn't make this any better. If your opponent special summons 2 monsters with 1800 or more attack, or at least one of them has 1800 or more attack, they can get over the extra link, which definitely is not good for us. If they normal summon a Candina, they can clear our extra link entirely. So really, why would I play such a fragile extra link like this? Well, that's where we can get into the potential of more monsters on our field. So if we had a Tri-Gate on our field and something to give us battle protection, for example, we can summon a Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax because that's a Cyberse monster. If we can summon that at the end of our combo, then it makes our board even harder to deal with because they can't target anything and they have to attack into the Avramax. So they need to have 2 monsters with at least 3000 attack. So another strength is, depending on what we draw, if our hand's already good, our hand can get even better because we can search Signit Conflict. So instead of requiring just the 2 cards, if you drew Signit Codec already, we're getting Signit Conflict, making our end board just 1,000 times superior. And honestly, the deck could have even crazier end boards depending on further experimentation. I don't think this is the end-all be-all to Cyberse boards, especially when we take into consideration we can play engines like Salamangreats, etc., making this even more superior. And also, the deck is just inherently really consistent. I mean, getting access to Signit Codec isn't hard at all. You can chain block your cards very efficiently, just making it harder for the opponent to hand trap you and stop the combo. Honestly, the deck is really solid at being able to extra link and consistently and play through at least one hand trap. So what are the flaws to solve in this deck? Well, it can definitely be dealt with and broken. Like I already stated, one Candina outs the entire extra link, because you can grab Candina or a Korobane and it completely outs the board. Literally, Candina is a hard counter to this extra link. There aren't really any disruptions, you're just sitting on the extra link. It can be attacked over like I've already stated, and the opponent can still special summon. The other big issue is that there aren't many good removal cards in the strategy. I mean, Heatleo is spell and trap removal, and Security Dragon can bounce monsters back to the hand, but Heatleo already requires too much because it requires fire monsters specifically, and we're not playing that many fire monsters. And Security Dragon is pretty good, but it bounces it back to the hand rather than just destroying something. Which obviously in some scenarios bouncing to the hand is literally just better, but that's besides the point here. And we cannot play Nightmares in this strategy because they aren't Cyberse, so we need some form of specific Cyberse removal in order for our deck to clear boards much more efficiently. So with all of these weaknesses in mind, let's now dive into the Cyberse Pendulum monsters and see what they are and how they can help the archetype. And remember, this is just my speculation, they could totally be something different, but this is just a potential option that Cyberse Pendulums could take. So I propose that the first thing is, both of them are normal monsters. If they were effect monsters, it'd be kind of crazy, but at the same time, Cyberse are kind of lacking on the normal monster route, and so having them be normal monsters give you a reason to summon cards like Prompthorn in order to special summon Cyberse normal monsters from your deck. So you're just playing more normal monsters that are actually good. Funny enough, I guess, I don't know, I just kind of titled these whatever. I called them Yin and Yang Gardna. So Yangarna is a level 2 scale 1 Pendulum Light Cyberse normal monster, that's a mouthful I know, with 1200 attack, 200 defense, and its scale effect being, you can send one Cyberse monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. Special summon this card from your Pendulum scale. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except Cyberse monsters. You can only use this effect of First Garna once per turn. So Yangarna is actually pretty good for the archetype. Yangarna is an inherent special summon that you can special summon at any point regardless of controlling a Cyberse monster. It's highly searchable, it's a normal monster which is great to support cards like Prompthorn. It's sending a Cyberse monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, which helps you fuel Firewall, Dark Fluid Dragon. It would be even better if you could send 2, but that would probably be pretty crazy. So basically this card just fills a lot of roles we want. It's a light as well, making it easily accessible through cards like Signit Codec and searching it off of summoning Code Talker Invert, making this card very accessible, very prominent, and essential combo piece. It sends to the extra deck as cost. Overall, I think this card would be an amazing fit in Cyberse decks. And the second card I think is actually really interesting, and more interesting than Yangarna. Yangarna is pretty straightforward. It supports Dark Fluid, it's highly searchable, it's an inherent special summon, it's really straightforward. However, I think Yangarna is actually more interesting and more technical than you think. So Yangarna is a level 1 scale 8 Pendulum Dark Cyberse tuner normal monster with 200 attack, 1200 defense, and the following scale effect. You can discard one Cyberse monster, then target one card your opponent controls, destroy that card, and if you do, special summon this card. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except Cyberse monsters. You can only use this effect of Second Garna once per turn. So one thing I want to add is they do have those restrictions of not being able to special summon anything other than Cyberse monsters, because it'd be pretty ridiculous if you could just inherently special summon these guys, and that inherently supports Pendulum like that. That'd be kind of ridiculous. So more specifically, we want to support Pendulum. So again, Yangarna is highly searchable, arguably more searchable because it's easier to search off a Signit backdoor, only having 200 attack. But I think the big thing is, first off, it's a tuner monster, meaning you can search this off a Cyberse Witkid, making Witkid inherent removal for the archetype. This card is even more searchable because it's a tuner. And one other thing I want to point out, Yangarna is a level 1 and Yangarna is a level 2. Making them both really good summons off of Prompthorn. More specifically, Yangarna is a good summon. But then Yangarna, out of nowhere, can synchro with the Yangarna in order to summon a Cyberse integrator, again supporting your strategy of summoning Cyberse extra deck monsters to eventually go into Dark Fluid. Yangarna also solves the inherent problem with the archetype that the archetype doesn't have removal, and now you just have an easy way of clearing cards on the field. Regardless if you having to discard one Cyberse monster, it's an inherent special summon. The Cyberse discard doesn't really matter in the long run because you're taking a 1-for-1 trade in that case. Obviously, if it gets disrupted, it hurts, but then you're just debating a back row. It's honestly really solid. Yin and Yangarna are great utility cards for the strategy. I don't think the Pendulum Cyberse monsters will break the archetype. I mean, if we were going to break Cyberse, I think in that case, Yangarna would be like, if this card is special summoned by this effect, you can special summon one Cyberse monster from your deck or something like that. Something ridiculous like that would make this card crazy. Or Yangarna can search Yangarna, or Yangarna can search Yangarna. There's different ways of playing this out. If you get access to one of the two, you can put the other in scale, and that's one way of doing it. One card Pendulum scales are pretty good to me, I heard. These cards fill a specific role that the deck lacked before. One of them doesn't really as much. I mean, it helps support Dark Fluid in this case. However, the other one serves the role of giving you inherent removal. And I think that's a big deal for Cyberse. Now, the reason I didn't give these monsters a link to search Cyberse Pendulums is because that would be kind of crazy. I'm not even gonna lie. It would be pretty ridiculous if you could do that. However, that doesn't change the fact that these cards are very searchable. And also, they're actual Pendulum monsters. I mean, think about it. Pendulums are always great. They're not really as great in this deck because, you know, your entire hand aren't Pendulum Monsters. You're not filling your extra deck with Pendulum Monsters, so it's not really as good. However, at the same time, these are still really good standalone cards, and that was really the approach I was trying to go for here. These Cyberse Pendulum Monsters would be nice for the deck, helping in multiple areas. Do I think these would be enough to push them over the edge? If they support the deck enough to make the extra link, but then also have a Tri-Gate Wizard or a Dark Fluid, then yes, it could be. The main thing this deck needs is a way to 2-card extra link and have the Tri-Gate or a Firewall Dark Fluid, but preferably Tri-Gate. And if it can do that while playing through a hand trap consistently, then 100% this deck can be crazy. Otherwise, we'll have to wait for more support and see where this archetype goes. Thanks for watching.